Good morning and good afternoon, and welcome to our redo edition of Random Trek. We are in an alternate universe, ladies and gentlemen. Time has skewed, things went wrong, and now we're doing it all over again in a completely different way. That's right. We're taking a look at Star Trek 09. If any of you listened to our podcast last week, we attempted to do this very review, but technological errors happened and we lost the recording. So we're having to do it all over again. We figured in the spirit of 09 Star Trek, we're going to do it completely differently than we did before.
Yes, a subspace rift popped up and just took the entire recording.
Yep. I am your fearful captain in any timeline, Christopher Ingle, joined as always by my technologically advanced cyborg first officer, Brennan, the mystical Mar. Brennan, you're a cyborg now.
Live long and prosper.
But I am not alone. Joining us today, he is our lieutenant commander. This is the man who has a taste for music. Well, both of our guests do. But this guy has a band himself, but we wanted to have him back after his look at the Wrath of Khan. It's the man from the other Star franchise, Chris Skywalker Dohmen.
What's going on, everybody? Glad to be back. Glad to hopefully get it right this time. We're not going to have any issues. It's going to be a smooth sail through the cosmos. We're not going to get into any more temporal rifts. And this time, when we come out the other end of the black hole, it's not going to be 25 years, that we kept people waiting for this. So
And of course, we have our transporter chief, the Miles O'Brien, the man that gets sat on an awful lot by me. He's my brother. He is Aaron Dye.
Jesus.
What was that intro?
Hey, if we're talking about Miles O'Brien here, then we're just gonna have to stay with it.
Yeah.
Well, the joke has always been, you see, Aaron was in the Navy, and he's always reminded me he is not an officer. And so clearly,
Correct.
I had to make him Miles O'Brien because he's our transporter chief.
I hope he doesn't get captured by the Cardassians. And
But hey, listen, your best friend's a really, really cool doctor, and you guys have this kind of Jay and Silent Bob thing going.
True.
It's true. All right.
And then there's this lizard guy.
Oh, the lizard guy. Oh, yes, Morn.
No, Garrick.
Oh, Garrick. I thought we were talking about Morn.
I didn't think about him as the lizard, but close enough.
All right. No one mourns the wicked. Anyway, it was a terrible pun. Moving right along. Listen, on this podcast, we don't talk enough about Morn when we go to DS9. I can't wait for the Morn death episode. It's going to be so great when we get there. But let's not talk Star Trek 09. So, gentlemen, in short, try to do it in 30 seconds or less. How did you feel going in to the JJ verse, knowing that this was going to be a reboot, rehash? How did you feel, Dohmen?
I went in with some with some anticipation, just because, like, at the time, I hadn't really known much of what J.J. Abrams was doing. I wasn't too familiar with his television work at the time, and of course, the last film we got, I liked it, but a lot of other people didn't, so I didn't know what to think. Coming out of it, even back then, I had mixed feelings, and luckily with time, I've learned how to express my mixed feelings in a more succinct and clear fashion, as we'll get into later.
Aaron?
I went into it knowing that it was a reboot, it was a rehash and everything. I went into it with slight hesitation, and it's kind of divisive, but I like it. It's not bad.
I don't know about you.
It's a little trepidatious, just because I didn't know a lot of the actors. I knew some of them. I wasn't sure how well they were going to fill the role. I know that there was a lot of mystery in the trailer, which everybody sold months before the movie came out. But regardless, I didn't really know what to expect. Wasn't sure that I was going to like it. And I ended up liking it a lot. So.
I don't think any of us knew what to expect when it was first come out. Now, of course, as we talked about in the past, leaks and things like that kind of spoiled it a little bit. So, but I'm overall very happy in the direction that they went into. They went for it. And they did something that we'll talk about as a theme, and that is introducing new people to Star Trek while still showing the deserved love to the fan base that existed. And it's a hard balance to hit. And no surprise, I think they bullseyed it on this one. But let's get into it here. So we're gonna break it down kind of section by section. Let's talk about kind of the before sequences. Okay, the Kelvin, the stuff with the Kelvin, and of course the young years of Kirk and Spock. This is really interesting stuff that we never got a lot of, maybe a little bit in the original animated series. But Aaron, I want to start with you in terms of character. What did you think of this early Kirk and Spock and the impact that this Kelvin story happened as it was unfolding right in front of us?
I think that playing up the relationship between Kirk and Spock, obviously that's the natural thing to do. That's what they want to do. I mean, that's essentially the story of the original series. That's the three of them, McCoy, Spock, and Kirk, all three of them being friends, that sort of thing. I don't necessarily agree with the way that they went about it, because there was some deleted stuff for Kirk's portion of it that, if they would have included it, would have made the car stealing that much more emotional for Kirk. But it is what it is.
Dohmen, what about you?
So to piggyback off of Aaron's point for 2 seconds, I'm kind of in a similar boat where there's a lot of things that they do bring in that are some new dynamics to try to give, new characters a bit of a different spotlight, a different origin story, where there's some great ideas that are presented. It's just in the execution, it does come across a little fast. It comes across a little rushed, a little sloppy, I would even dare say. Where again, it's not bad. The ideas are there, but the execution doesn't back it up. And we'll get into this more later on in the conversation, but particularly with a certain Russian whiz kid and a certain great engineer.
Absolutely. Brennan, what about you and this relationship that we're developing early with Kirk and Spock?
Well, first off, the whole Kelvin opening scene, it's a very clever idea to say that this is not a reboot so much as an alternate universe where something happened in the original timeline that affected this timeline. That's clever. And I like that we get to see this emotional opening scene. Now, we can certainly question the logic of what is a pregnant woman doing on the Kelvin. But regardless, what it does is when this sequence ends, I remember seeing this in the theater the first time, and I was emotionally hooked in this movie. Now, the opening bit with Kirk in the car, the more I think about it, the less I think it has anything to do with anything other than we know that Kirk's kind of the reckless, but we don't really see the reason why he's doing that with the car. The thing with Spock, I actually kind of like, just because we learned that he was bullied as a kid. By the other Vulcans. It says that in the original series. Getting to see it yet again, as has been pointed out, I think I agree. You don't really need that scene to understand Spock. We get it. We kind of get the idea. So that, I don't hate those two sequences. The more I think about it, the more they probably could have left them out, or we'll get there at the end, but included the deleted scenes.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I think it's a pretty good start, I think.
I think it's a really good start. And where we get, I mean, I will comment momentarily on the Kirk and Spock dynamic that we get this back and forth that exists through time. But I have to start with the Kelvin crew. And three people in particular that I really enjoy. First of all, I didn't mention it last time, but I got to give this guy some credit. Faran Tahir as Captain Rabao.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
This is an actor that he's one of those guys that when I see him, I go, oh, it's that guy. He is a Pakistani American actor. This guy has some credence. This guy graduated from Berkeley's theater program, went on to get his MFA at Harvard. This is a guy like knows his craft. And he's in so much TV.
Great character actor, yeah.
He really is. He's in a lot of TV, but you might recognize him if you don't recognize the name in this movie as the villain Raza in Iron Man. He was the head of the
That's
rings.
Right. The 10 Rings.
Yes. I remember him from a lot of different TV, Charmed, Warehouse 13. He was in the 12 Monkeys series for season 3. This guy's done a lot, and does a lot more TV. But his time as the captain of the Kelvin really adds this gravitas as he's going through, which plays well to when we eventually get to Pike, because Pike follows those same patterns that this follows. So we believe this guy is a leader. He is a Starfleet captain, and I buy it, and I like it. But he sets things in motion that change everything for us, because when being attacked by the Narada, he puts a young Mr. Kirk, but it is not the Kirk that we are thinking of. No, it's Kirk's dad. It's Daddy Kirk. And, George Kirk, getting to see George Kirk young, and it's Chris Hemsworth, first of all.
Young, fresh-faced Chris Hemsworth.
This is, I think, Hemsworth's first film. At least his first American film. I think it's his first American film.
Yes, first American. I think he had done some Australian.
Because Thor was not there yet. We were still a couple years away from
2
Thor.
years away, yeah.
Yeah.
But he's only in it briefly, but again, sets up some important things. And then Jennifer Morrison, it's very brief, but she plays Winona Kirk, who is Spock's mother. And this relationship that's built in there.
Kirk's mother. Winona Ryder.
I'm going to do. So you know why I did that there.
No.
You're right. Kirk's mommy. Anyway, this was actually an early role for Morrison as well, as she would go on to Once Upon a Time for its entire run as the lead in that. So this was a good start for her as well. But in those few minutes, you see the love that we find more about with Kirk. Kirk's relationship with his parents is important. It's very important. And we see the love that they have, because Pike uses that later on as a motivating force to get Kirk to join Starfleet. And the portrayals, even as short as they are, I think really sell that. Dohmen?
No, I was just gonna say it reminds me of the Hidden Enemy from TOS season 1. Like, how it starts off with Kirk hosting a wedding, and then unfortunately during the battle with the Romulans,
Balance of Terror.
Or Balance of Terror. My apologies. Yep. Where it starts with the wedding, and then of course during the battle one of them dies, and it gave me that kind of feeling with the opening of the Kelvin.
Absolutely. But we go through that battle, and then we bounce back and forth between young Kirk, young Spock. And I really love the dynamic that we're presented as we're going through, that both are misfits. Both are lost, and Spock is with his parents. We get more with Sarek, and anytime we get Sarek, I enjoy it. Sarek
he's a complete jerk.
I don't think he's a jerk.
Well, Mark Leonard is more of a jerk in his performance.
That's true, but there was a point to it. There was an understanding to it.
True. That's true.
And again, when you think he's a Vulcan, Ben Cross does such a good job in here. I buy Ben Cross and what he's doing. But we'll talk more about Ben Cross's performance later, because I think it comes back around. And even though it feels out of place to me at times with the new portrayal in Strange New Worlds, Winona Ryder as Amanda Grayson at first didn't work for me. At first, I didn't buy it. It felt weird. I was like, why am I watching the chick from Edward Scissorhands here? What is going on?
Lydia Dietz in Star Trek.
It wasn't working for me. But as
I buy Mia Sarah as Amanda way more than I do Winona Ryder. Just my 2 cents.
No, I
Oh,
totally
fair
get it.
enough.
She's by far the weaker, but she's kind of played on me a little bit more over time. Especially when we talk about the love that she feels, and we learn more with Discovery and Strange New Worlds about that relationship with Amanda Grayson. I buy it a little bit more than I did the first time. But again, looking at it the way it is, she doesn't do great. But when you go into more character, it makes more sense.
We also have to give a shout out to I forget the name of the actors who played her originally. In the movies of the original series.
Oh, in Amanda Grayson in Star Trek 4?
Yeah, the actress, I forget her name.
I'm gonna find
she's
out real
really good.
fast. I'm gonna find out real
But
fast.
she was also in the original series.
Yes. Jane Wyatt.
Jane White.
There we go.
She
Thank
was
you.
really good too.
Yes. We've had a good history of people who are his mom. Really, I think we're hitting that. Anyway, so yeah, we go through that, and then we fast forward after the car sequence and everything. We fast forward in time, and we're introduced to Spock as a young man. He's getting ready to go to the Vulcan Academy, but they kind of give him a backhanded diss and go, listen, we want you in here. You're great, despite your disadvantages. Whoa, dude. Whoa. Did you just mess with my mama?
And
No,
what's
I'm going to
funny is
Starfleet.
he says that, Sarek is standing right next to him.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
It's like you just insulted one of the members of the panel.
It is.
He's sitting right next to you.
Yes.
Which is exactly why I say that look that Spock and Sarek share in that moment is so nuanced.
Even though Sarek doesn't show emotion, you could see that he's not happy with that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, hell, that's just one of the best scenes in the entire
And
film.
by the way,
anyway.
I found this out.
Can I just point out one thing real quick?
Go ahead.
The one thing I do like about when Spock is a kid, he asks his dad, "Why did you marry Nan?" Later, that gets comes full circle. So,
I found out
shaking his head.
one of the
We'll get to it.
Vulcan Academy or the Science Council members is Akiva Goldsman.
No, that's right.
Really?
I was like, it's Akiva Goldsman.
And the guy who plays the lead of the panel.
Boy, where have we seen him before?
He was in Next Gen and he was in Star Trek 6.
And Voyager. He was also in Voyager.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been around a lot, but I can't remember his name.
But he's really good. He's really good.
Yeah, he's really good anyway. Anyway, the point is that Spock decides, you know what, I'm going to Starfleet.
And then ultimate live long and prosper, but more like a
absolutely
screw you kind of
live
thing.
long and suck it.
Yes, absolutely. But we fast forward in time, and we're basically what we're looking at now is we meet our Kirk, as is played by Chris Pine, or as I knew him, that guy from Princess Diaries 2.
Yes.
Listen, he's a charmer, man. So I sat there going, I buy this. I like it.
Like his first major role.
This was his first really big role. I agree. I do.
And he
agree
really
with
does
that.
a good job, I think.
Yeah. No, he fills the shoes well, and I think that's something we're going to talk
And
about.
Zachary Quinto is really good as Spock too.
I think we're going to talk about overall with casting,
Yeah,
how each of them really chose wisely when to pay homage and when to do their own thing.
Yeah.
And it's a perfect blend. It's absolutely perfect. But so we get Kirk at a bar in Iowa. It's great. And we meet young Uhura as a cadet. Why she's a cadet in Iowa, I have no idea.
Great Zoe Saldana.
Yes. But they're in a bar. Kirk's hitting on her. Kirk gets in a bar fight because if you expect anyone to get in a bar fight, it's Kirk. But the bar fight is stopped by Pike, played beautifully by Bruce Greenwood.
The incomparable.
Yes, the second best Pike.
Second best Pike. Playing the President of the United States in National Treasure 2.
Yes.
Before I saw this movie.
You know what I remember him most from is Double Jeopardy.
Yep.
With
my goodness.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, he then the year after he gave arguably one of the most underappreciated Batman performances in Under the Red Hood. So
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yes.
Bruce
Yes.
Greenwood has played Batman
He is
as well.
great
Yes.
as Batman in the animated stuff. He's in it's not no, it is Assault on Arkham.
He is also
Awesome.
played, if I
Awesome.
remember correctly, he has also played Thomas Wayne in the Flashpoint universe.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So this is a guy, he's got dramatic gravitas. But
Very, very well rounded.
he stops the fight, tells Kirk, look, you're a genius. What the hell are you doing? You know, you could do so well. And he basically tells him, look, your father was a Starfleet captain for only a few minutes and saved hundreds of lives. I dare you to do better. And he convinces him to join Starfleet. Under the guise that, hey, I'll finish it in 3 and be a captain. And, you know, it's like, oh, he's cocky. He's cocky. So he chooses to do that. He goes ahead and enlists and is going to go to the academy. And we meet up with Carl Urban.
Yes.
Carl Urban as Bones.
Yes.
Guys,
casting
Aylmer himself.
ever.
so I have to ask here,
Aylmer
because I
himself.
think this is the first chance we get this. The relationship building between Bones and Kirk right here in this moment. What do we think?
It's beautiful.
This is perfect. It is chef's kiss. Would not change a damn thing. Don't
yeah,
change a single line of
Some of
dialogue.
the best
It's perfect.
dialogue in the movie.
Mm-hmm. I love it. This is such a great
Right off the
introduction.
bat, you feel the connection.
Actually, I'm going to say of all the characters in this film to be introduced, Carl Urban's is my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
and of course,
absolutely.
at this point, he had been in the Bourne franchise. He had been in Lord of the Rings. He had even
Dread,
been on
Doom.
Doom.
And he's going to go on to be in
Hadn't
the
he been
Thor
on
franchise.
Xena?
Yes,
Oh
he
yeah,
was.
that's right.
That's
He's
right,
Cupid.
yes.
That's right. He's Cupid.
I wouldn't have thought that for him.
The
Such a
hot
fresh
Cupid.
face.
The bad hair dye job.
Well, he's a Kiwi. He is a Kiwi, so it does make sense. Sense.
Yeah.
Hides the accent well, though. He really does. But anyway, I really enjoy that. And so we go basically in, again, time jump forward. They are at the academy now. Kirk is in his 3rd year. He is in his 3rd year. And Kirk says, hey, Bones, I'm gonna go take the Kobayashi Maru for the 3rd time. What the heck are you doing, man? Nobody likes doing it the first time, let alone going for 3rds.
Nobody comes back for seconds, let alone thirds.
I know. Yeah, it's great. But yeah, we see that going on. He's like, I gotta study, and then the next scene, he's hitting it with a Orion girl.
Yes.
I'm like,
Oh, yes.
go Kirk. By the way, this is I gotta say, she is the prettiest Orion I have seen yet until Tendi. And yes,
Yeah,
I think Tendi's hot. Sue me.
Hey,
You're not the only one.
Now,
I'm the one who said I wanted to ask Tindy.
now, it is funny that they do show this, you know, because like I've always been a little confused by this, because like I know that people like to paint Kirk as the ladies' man, but honestly,
He's not.
outside of just a couple of ex-girlfriends, was he ever actually a ladies' man?
Not really, no.
No, not really.
The
No.
thing is, though, that if there was any character more likely to get the kiss, it was Kirk. And the problem that you face with that is the Uhura kiss. That cemented that idea, even though that was the most forced kiss in Star Trek history.
Mm-hmm.
It cemented that idea, I think. And yes, there were some times Kirk got the girl. It did happen.
City
But-
on edge forever.
Yeah,
Ugh.
but
He would
it's
have to
not
lose that girl.
it's not what we think it is. But I still love the idea that, you know what? Kirk's got away with the ladies. He does. I don't think you can deny it. And Pine offers a charm here that's so great. I absolutely love it. Uhura walks in and the girlfriend's like, hide. No one's supposed to be here. Go, hide. And her and Uhura are talking. And she's like, she turns around. She's like, all right, who is he? What are you talking about? The mouth breather under the bed. You can hear me breathing? But this is important. It comes off as a joke, but this is important. This shows Uhura's skills. We get a little bit of the kind of ability that Uhura has with her hearing and listening. And she also lets know that she was in the long-range sensor lab and picked up a Klingon distress signal. Interesting. We'll get back to that. So Kobayashi Maru, he goes in, takes the Kobayashi Maru, and as he described in Star Trek 2, he cheated. He reprogrammed the system somehow, and managed to beat the system. And who originally programmed the program? None other than Commander Spock. And so we get a showdown in academic vernacular. We get a showdown with. Why does every cadet have to show up for this inquiry? You notice that?
To make an example of him.
I was like, everyone's there, and I'm like, what is going on here? But unlike the original, where he was commendated for original thinking, here he's being suspended pending a review. Interesting. But in this process, we get an emergency report from Vulcan that there's some seismic activity going on, and that they are to report to their ships as everyone else is in the Laurentian system. So all the cadets have got to go help their neighbor Vulcan. Okay, cool. But Kirk is grounded. Kirk is not supposed to be able to go. So our man Bones, a la Bones intentionally gets Kirk sick in order to make him do his thing. In order to get him on the ship.
Of all Star Trek.
It is one of the funniest scenes. Yeah, but they do eventually get aboard the Enterprise, and we get also a first look at some kind of a relationship between Uhura and Spock. Does that seem weird to anybody still? To me,
yes,
it just feels weird.
They honestly, comparatively speaking, to like Ethan Peck and Nurse Chapel on Strange New Worlds, Zachary Quinto and Zoe Saldana do not have a lot of chemistry. It just seemed kind of forced.
That's an excellent point, because you're right. Ethan Peck and what's the actress who plays Nurse Chapel?
Jessa Bush.
Their chemistry is amazing.
They have wonderful chemistry.
Yeah, you're right. Zoe Saldana and Zachary Quinto. It's a little odd.
Yeah.
It just feels like this is the kind of fan service where it's like, oh, this is great, because back in the TOS days, my God, Uhura was simping on Spock for pretty much most of seasons 1 and 2. And granted, it was kind of cute because, Leonard Nimoy was a little too good at rejecting her advances. But I can't get the feeling that's the only reason the writers went that direction with them, just to show a little fan service. And
that's probably, I think I agree with that. And though to say, Zachary Quinto and Zoe Saldana are great in their characters.
Right.
I think
the chemistry between them, it's lacking.
Yeah.
It feels weird, I think, simply because I wasn't aware of the budding relationship that existed in TOS. It was there. It clearly was there. But I was introduced, in terms of TOS, to the movies before I ever was the original series. So I never saw any of that kind of slight play that Uhura was giving to Spock. I never had that. So it just felt odd to me.
Yeah, Uhura flirted more with Scotty in the movies than she did.
Yeah.
That's true, yeah.
Which was weird.
Don't get me started on
that was weird, yeah.
But
we've been there.
So Bones manages to get Kirk to go up there, and we get what we get in every Star Trek movie, and that's our obligatory glory shot of the USS Enterprise, which actually is not our first view of the Enterprise, as earlier on Iowa we saw it being built, which is something that's different. Very interesting here, the differences they play with, because it plays into this film. And we'll get to that momentarily, but it plays into it. What do we think? And I also want to bring in the score, because you can't talk about the glory shot without we talking about the score. And is it Giacchino?
Michael G.
Oh, yeah.
This is Michael Giacchino's score, and it's so reminiscent to me of that Jerry Goldsmith score when we, it was faster, but it's still got that grandiose feel to you. How do you guys feel about this moment?
Love it.
In my word. I mean,
So-
amazing.
Yeah, and as I'll get into later on in this episode, you'll hear me say that JJ needs to learn how to slow the hell down. This is one of those rare times he actually did, and it's so effective.
Yeah, once
This
in a while
is-
he remembers to do that. Once in a while.
Yeah, and this is like, well, to me, this is the glory shot from the motion picture, but done to perfection.
Yeah, not quite as long as the one in the
Jim,
motion.
you gotta see this. I love it.
Yeah, that shot where we zoom over the space dock and you get the Enterprise there, and the music just explodes.
So good.
It's magic. It is movie magic.
What's really nice to this too is it's not any of the Star Trek themes that we've already had. You would expect to hear maybe some of the classic themes, or maybe even a riff or two from Gold. You don't get that. It's completely unique, and this theme actually carries through the next two films. And I really like that consistency in terms of that this is making its own thing. But being that this is a new universe, this is a new timeline, I like that. I love that aspect that this is a new Trek. This
And
is a new theme. and
How
I'm
do we
okay.
feel about the design of the Enterprise?
Love it.
I
I think it's pretty good. I think it's
I
pretty
I
good.
like
don't-
them.
I'm a little torn, and I kind of, the thing is that, like, I want to attribute it to, Kelvin timeline, they're designing ships different, stuff happen, I want to go that way. But yet the Kelvin is kind of similar in that overall design. It's just, here's my thing. I think this is too fat. The circles, okay, how do I put it? The ship to me has too many round edges. One of the things that I always loved about the original Enterprise is there is a flow to it, but it's very angular. It's very rigid. Now, part of that, I know the reason for that, is building the model. You're limited in just physics, what you can do. I understand that. That being said, it is the ship that I'm used to. And, you go through original series and then even into the A, the refit and the A, those angles still are there, those very solid angles. And that's just something I'm used to. Here, they smooth them out, but it feels, I hate to say this, and I don't mean it as an insult, but there's no other way for me to put it. It's like when you get a knockoff toy from Hong Kong that looks so close to what you're looking for, but it's not. That's what this feels like to me.
I honestly, I think that this design of the Enterprise, while keeping in line with all the other designs that we've ever seen, it's still all the same points. It feels a little more like a classic car, to be honest with you. It looks like it's got a
Okay,
little
yeah.
more polish on it. It looks like it's got a little more flash. It's still the same thing, but I like them.
It's not terrible, and it definitely evokes those feelings that you look, and I get it's different. This is new, it's more modern. I understand that. I feel the same way about the bridge and the overall aesthetic of the inside. It's the same thing. Yes, it's very different. I have some qualms. Like, I feel the shuttle bay is way too big. I think for the size of the ship, I still say the shuttle bay is way too big.
Too much plumbing.
I still can't figure out how the Kelvin is half the size of the Enterprise and has about 48 shuttles coming out of it. I can't figure that out. But aesthetics wise, it's there. But I will chalk it up to this. It's what I've been used to. I'm used to a certain thing and a certain way. And it's not that I'm opposed to the change. I guess I'm just so used to seeing a certain way. It's taken a while to kind of go, oh, this is what it is. And I get
That's
it.
fair.
And let's be fair here. a lot of filmmakers like to apply Time Lord physics to certain things. So
It's true. It's bigger on the inside.
That's
Tell me it's not.
true.
Discovery, I'm looking at you
That's true.
every time.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But we move forward. So the Captain Pike comes in and says, we're gonna go assist Vulcan in any way we can. Let's head out. We are introduced, of course, to John Cho playing Sulu, which
He's
I really
great.
love.
He's great.
Absolutely great. And then Anton Yelchin playing Chekhov.
The late Anton Yelchin.
Yeah, I love Anton Yelchin as
He's
Chekhov.
great. He is so good.
He is really good, but as tradition dictates, he plays up that accent really well. And here's the thing: Anton Yelchin is actually
It's
Russian,
actually Russian,
Yeah,
yes.
he is.
and he jokes. He's like, Russians don't talk like this. So he had to go to dialect school. He talked with Walter Koenig a lot,
To learn how to
specifically
speak
to
fake
get
Russian.
to get this Chekhov Russian to go.
And thankfully,
and
he's not wearing the wig that
Oof.
Oh, the bowl cut, the
Yeah.
Beatles bowl cut that he had. Yeah,
The monkeys. The
Oh,
monkeys.
monkeys.
the
I was
monkeys. Yeah.
okay. But yeah, he's really interesting, and in a very beautiful cameo. This is the last performance until Picard of Michelle Barrett Roddenberry as the voice of the computer.
Mm-hmm.
Very happy to see that. It's a nice touch. She died shortly after this film.
Very
So
unfortunate.
we wouldn't get any more again until archival sound in Picard season 3. But the fleet warps off except the Enterprise because the parking brake's on. And while we think, oh, this is a great joke, it actually serves a purpose. It delays the Enterprise a few minutes. Okay. So eventually they go off. Kirk wakes up. Chekhov does a briefing, and he says that we're responding. We heard of a lightning storm in space, and this sets off Kirk because that's how the Narada showed up in the time frame that it did. It came through what looked like a lightning storm in space. And so what we find out is that the Narada, we'll get there, but Enterprise hasn't figured out the Narada is attacking Vulcan. We don't know why or what's going on, but that's where we're about to get to. Kirk wakes up and realizes what's going on, rushes down to Uhura and says, Uhura, the signal that you got when you were listening, was it Romulan? Was it Romulan? She was like, well, yeah, actually, there was this Romulan signal. He figures it out, runs to the bridge, tells Pike, they're being attacked. This is not, they're being attacked. We're going into an ambush. Pike says, he listens to him despite he's not supposed to be there. The red alert, shields up, and they get there, and the Armada is just wasted. Yeah, it is obliterated. The Narada goes to attack the Enterprise, but stops, realizing it's the Enterprise. For what we discover is Nero, who is our villain, played by Eric Bana. Our villain is looking for Spock. This actually was mentioned briefly earlier, but we discovered he was in the wrong time.
He's looking for the original.
He's looking for the original Spock, Leonard Nimoy. He knows the Enterprise, so that should be Spock. And this comes to my most irritating part of Nero.
Uh-oh. Well, yeah.
Hello, Christopher. I'm Nero.
It's so bad.
The acting for Eric Bana is atrocious in this. This is not a good Star Trek villain.
And it's not a very interesting character either.
No, his motivation makes sense to me. What we do find out is that he came from the future, and in the future, there was a supernova that was threatening to destroy Romulus. Spock offered to use technology to create an artificial black hole to absorb all of that energy and matter so that way Romulus would stay safe, but he didn't make it in time. And so being on a ship, he witnessed all of this and blamed Spock personally for it. So when the singularity was formed, they were both sucked into it, but they came at it at different ways at different times. The Narada came out first, and then
25 years too early.
Yeah, 25, yes. And then Spock in the jellyfish, that's what we'll call it, came out 25 years later. And so he's going to attack Vulcan to make vengeance on Spock for what happened. So they lower a drill down and they're drilling to the center and they're going to release this red matter into the center of Vulcan, destroying it. So Pike goes over to meet with Nero the same way that the captain did for the Kelvin, but this time he's smart. He leaves a 3-man team of Sulu, Kirk, and Ensign Ricky. Let's just call him that.
Yep.
Ensign Red Shirt.
Chief
Ensign
Engineer
Ricky.
Olsen.
Chief Engineer Olsen.
Played by a guy who appeared in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, but they do a drop. And here's the thing. John Cho's in yellow, Kirk's in blue, and there's a reason Ensign Ricky's in red.
I gotta say, the sound design in this scene is really cool.
Absolute best. Yeah.
They start a complete silence as they fall into the atmosphere.
All you get is the breathing from
and then
the
the sound
suits.
picks up, and then there's like this boom, like they cross into the atmosphere. It's really cool.
Yes. Yeah, I absolutely love that. They
Of course, Ensign Ricky. Well, we know what happens to him.
Yeah, he pulls his chute too late, gets sucked into the beam, and is vaporized.
Yeah.
Sulu and Kirk land on, and they manage to fight off a bunch of Romulans and disable the drill, but the damage
Sulu,
is
good
done.
with fencing, by the way.
Yeah, they bring back the fencing
A
here.
little bit of a reference to the original.
It's not a fencing sword, though, guys. I know it's
Oh, yeah,
futuristic.
no.
I was like, that is not a fencing sword,
That's a
but I'll buy
katana.
it.
That's a
It's
katana.
like, I know, right? Which is funny because the idea is that Sulu is supposed to be Japanese,
Yeah.
Yes.
yet he has not ever been played by an actor who's Japanese.
Well, just in case.
George Takei is he came out, didn't he? Wait. I remember him making a comment about this. No, he made a comment about this. I can't remember what it was. He did make a I'll have to review that. He made a comment about this in an interview years ago, and I can't remember to what
I
extent.
thought he was in one of the tournament camps.
Yeah, he was.
I got to double check how
He
I
was,
know he
yep.
talks about this, and he talks about how he wasn't and he might have been what it was originally. Maybe
Was
he
he
got it
Okinawan?
changed.
Yeah, I think
I'll have
so.
to double check. Anyway, my point is that John Cho is of Korean descent.
Korean, yeah.
So I still, nonetheless, I think they do a great job. I love
Oh
it.
yeah, no, he's great as Sulu.
Right, he is, yes.
Yeah, he's wonderful. So they manage to beat it. They get accidentally knocked off the drill and they're falling down towards the planet. And seismic activities make it really hard to beam them up. And WizKid Chekhov comes in and manages to beam them aboard. And then Spock says, I need to beam down. Which, by the way, you're the captain of the ship right now. What the hell are you doing? But he does.
Yeah, you know.
He beams down in his superhero pose. I don't
Interesting
understand that
choice.
either, but it was an interesting choice.
Well, it's a reference to heroes,
Oh, it
obviously.
is? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I get it.
I never saw that.
So he beams down. He rescues his parents and the elders of the Vulcan high command. But as they are beaming back out, the land underneath them crumbles, and Amanda falls to her death before she could be beamed out. By the way, guys, that
That's
makes
odd,
no
yeah.
sense to me. We just watched Chekhov do the same thing.
I'm losing her. I'm losing her. I'm losing her.
That was convenience.
They have a
I don't know,
moment
were they
where
trying
he's
to get
trying.
her out of the movie?
He lost her. It doesn't
He's
make sense to
trying.
me. I'm like, listen, you could
Yeah.
have done it. You know you could have.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Plot device.
It is. I know, and we needed motivation. We
Yeah.
needed motivation for Spock. I get that. So unfortunately, he does
Because
get
losing his planet alone wasn't bad enough.
Yeah, then you lost your
good
mother,
point.
who was the only person backing him of his humanity. Only person. Otherwise, the Vulcans were all against him. And in a way, so was his father, or so we feel anyway. In a way. And we'll get into that. We'll get into it. But it seems at first that Sarek's like, you're a Vulcan, be a Vulcan. And this is not something that we haven't seen before. When we look at Journey to Babel, when we look at the relationship between Sarek and Spock, this makes sense. That he's a hard ass to him. it makes sense to me. Absolutely 100%. I buy that. And even into Strange New Worlds and Discovery, it makes sense. I buy it. But they managed to get away, and they're gonna go rendezvous with the fleet in the Laurentian system. But Kirk, who by the way actually was named first officer by Pike before he left, I don't know why, but he was. I gotta say, the military structure on this ship makes no sense to me. How a cadet
it moves at the speed of thought.
it does.
It moves with the speed of Abrams.
All right, Dohmen, I give it to you. Go for it. I know you've been itching for this. Talk about the speed of Abrams.
No. We're not at the worst offender yet. So
Okay.
I'm gonna hold this.
All right, he's been itching at this for a while. But they argue on the bridge, and they're like, we got to go back. No, we're gonna meet him. No, we got to save him. When they fight, and they argue to the point that Spock kind of pinches him because Kirk gets a little aggressive. He does. He says, I want him off my ship. And they put him in an escape pod and send him down to the planet of Delta Vega.
Which is in the Vulcan system.
It is in the Vulcan system. Yes. And so Kirk is now left on this frozen wasteland, being forced to trek to a Starfleet outpost, but gets attacked by creatures along the way, which is a lot of fun to watch. It is. It's pretty. It does. You know what it reminds me of, though, a little bit? Is the I was thinking of the Narlac from Galaxy Quest.
Oh,
the rock creature. Yeah,
true. That's true. It's very Cloverfield.
It is
like a little bit like Stranger Things kind of creature.
But the idea of Kirk being chased by a creature or something is not uncommon. The Gorn in Arena. I mean, like, this is not uncommon. Not uncommon at all. Although it looks way better than a rubber suit, by the way. Yes. Anyway, so as we continue to move forward, he finds himself in a cave and he gets saved by somebody. We don't know who it is. Thanks, dude. No problem. He takes off his hood. It's Leonard Nimoy.
It's Leonard Nimoy.
This was the greatest kept secret that nobody could hold. Everyone knew this was happening. I was disappointed. It's amazing still. But could you imagine if you knew nothing and you saw this?
Oh, yeah.
How great would that have been?
Well, let's just say, and I'm not going to hate on JJ because I don't hate his movies.
Mm-hmm.
He's not very good at keeping secrets.
No, he's not.
And that's no, whatever.
He's not a great liar either.
No, he's not.
We'll talk about that next month.
We'll get there next month. Yes.
Yes. But
that's definitely a marketing problem.
We now kind of get the exposition from what we'll call Spock Prime. From Spock Prime of everything that I've said, that he was supposed to save Romulus. He couldn't make it in time. Nero blamed him. And Nero wanted him to suffer the way he suffered. And so that was his decision to
Nero dumped him on Delta Vega so he could watch Vulcan being destroyed.
Right. Now, Spock Prime assumes that Kirk is in command of the ship. But he discovers, oh no, you're not. We need to get you back on that ship. Why? You hate me. I can't deprive you of the revelation you will discover of how much you need each other. You need each other.
Fan fiction writers need you.
Yes.
Yes. So he says, there's an outpost nearby. We're going to go there to get help. We need to get you back on the Enterprise. It's important that you're on that ship. You have a destiny you don't even know. You need to go. Okay, so they go to this outpost where they're met by Keenser, played by Deep Roy. I love Deep Roy. I love Deep Roy like I love Kenny Baker, like I love Warwick Davis. I just love them. They're so much fun. And Deep Roy is just fabulous as Keenser. He actually does more little comedic relief as time goes along in the other two movies, but I love him. Get off! It's not a claiming frame. I reference this because, of course, we are introduced to the most accurate recreation in this movie. It's Scotty, played by Simon Pegg.
Oh, yes.
I love Simon Pegg in this.
Completing the sci-fi trifecta.
Yes. He's done so many other things though by now, hasn't he?
Oh yeah.
He's
Star
done it all
Wars, Trek, Who.
now.
He's got to have done other things too. I mean, he's Simon Pegg. But
And
anyway,
he was one of the actors I did know going into this.
funny thing is, he did Who first. Who was way before all of this.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
And I think the reason why he got his part in Force Awakens was probably because of this.
I think so. Yeah.
Anyway, I digress. So Spock says, listen, what we need is your formula for transwarp beaming, which is a theory that Scotty has had, but not been able to prove. The idea that you could, it's no longer just sight to sight or line of sight limited to about 100 miles. You could do one planet to another planet in the same system using this formula, which apparently the Scotty from the Prime Scotty invented around TNG's time. Which, by the way, I think is really interesting. Last time we saw him, he was on the Janolan heading out. This guy's still working, and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Any shout out for James Doohan is good enough for me.
Let's not gloss over the fact that this is a timey-wimey plot device here.
It is a time and one,
It
but
is.
I'll go with it.
It is.
I'll go with it. So he sets him up. We get a nice reference to Admiral Archer from Enterprise, which is really nice. A fun little Easter egg there. But Spock wants to beam Kirk and Scotty over to the ship, which they do. And we get I think it's a fun sequence in the bowels of the Enterprise ship, played beautifully by a Budweiser beer factory. I'll go with it.
Hence the cleverly placed product placement in the bar scene earlier in the movie.
That was their cost for using it, was product placement. We got you.
Classics.
And Sluggo, was it Sluggo or
Yes.
Slusho?
Yeah, Slusho. Yep.
Slusho. That shows up too. Anyway, I digress. So Scotty manages to escape certain doom because we have to have that. And they're brought aboard the bridge up top. And they say, what's going on? What's going on? Spock manages to lose his cool because Kirk figures out that if he can show that he's compromised, thanks to a little tip from Spock Prime, if he's compromised, he has to relinquish command, which he does. And he gets kind of an interesting reference to the original series. There was one point where Spock loses his temper, and Kirk is trying to get him to do it. And he calls him Jojo, the dog-faced boy in the original series, and he gets mad and he does what I call the Vulcan smash. Yeah, he smashes the console. And so we kind of get one of those here, which is, again, a nice touch. And he realizes, I am compromised. And he says, and I think it's a mistake, he steps down. And then Kirk becomes the captain. But he tells the crew, Mr. Spock has
resigned his commission, even though he didn't.
He didn't resign his commission. I think Kirk is a little pissed still at him.
Yeah, a little bit.
Anyway, so they decide they're going to go back. They're going to go back and save Pike.
We get this really sweet scene actually with Spock and Sarek.
Yeah, actually, and I do have to mention
scene.
before too that after the destruction of Vulcan, there is a nice scene between Uhura and Spock, which is a good moment. And this is the only thing that makes me go, this relationship could work. I see it more there. There's a tenderness that happens there.
We get also a similar tenderness with his dad, oddly enough.
Right. He does. He meets with his father. He's tore up. He's at the transporter pad where, assumably he would have saw his mother. And Sarek talks to, there's the glasses. Our friend Dohmen, there's the glasses. Talks to him and, he says, why did you even marry her? What did you do? And he's like, I loved your mother.
Yeah.
I loved her. I married her not just because it was earlier he said, I married her because it was logical.
Mm-hmm.
But here, after losing her, he says, I loved your mother. In a deep way.
It's a nice scene.
It is a nice scene. And I think it puts that context in it for Spock that he can embrace both his human side and his Vulcan side.
Okay, now we got to turn the time over to Dohmen.
Our Dohmen.
It's too bad that moment is not earned. It is not earned by Sarek in this movie. It never will be. Now, granted, I understand. Timelines, they're a little different. But before the events of the Kelvin, this is still the same exact person we are talking about. And you would think that a lot of those same personality traits would still carry over to Sarek, because what the hell does he have to do with the Kelvin?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And then you try to bring, okay, and again, I'm gonna get a little bitter here about this. So
Oh, no
the
kidding.
reason that this does not work for me in any capacity, and now, Ingle, I'm bringing up my point.
Okay.
Please do.
I shall. So the name of the game with Star Trek 09 is that the story must flow in accordance with Mr. Abrams' demand for speed. We have spent no time seeing an ounce of decency, compassion, or even a shred of humanity from, or I should say, Vulcanity from Mr. Sarek in this movie. And now we're going to suddenly throw in this nonsense moment only for what? It's literally just a cheap emotional moment that is not earned, and it's only brought in so that way we can just speed up Spock getting over the loss of his mother. And it's the same problem that we see throughout the movie, and with more or less a vast majority of the emotional beats. Now, there's a lot of things I like about this movie, but the script and the execution of the story are not one of them, because JJ is a lousy storyteller in this regard. Faster and more intense does not a good story make. It worked for Star Wars, sure, but that's because you kept the story simple, and it was, very, very, very simple characters. These are very complex characters with a lot of things going on. You're rushing through these events, and we're not getting invested because there's too much information taken at once.
Yeah.
God, I hate Sarek in this movie. I hate him in the prime timeline. I hate this scene. Honestly, okay, I'm going to say it. Sarek should have been the one to die on Vulcan.
Ooh.
That's not a bad idea.
I could back that up. Yeah.
That's not a bad idea at all.
I don't think so.
And then that way, when Spock's mother, the one who encourages him to embrace his humanity, can say, like, he can maybe ask her, "Why did you marry my father?" "I married your father because I loved him."
That would have been amazing.
But that's not. Here's my problem with this. While I love that as a shock
it's
value,
a great idea. I like it as it is.
The problem that you face in doing something like that is simply enough that Amanda represents the human side, Sarek the Vulcan side. It's very simple. They're his parents, but it's meant to do that. While we acknowledge that he was loved by Amanda, no questions asked, and that Sarek pushed those that Vulcan, especially go towards Kolinar. If you get rid of Sarek, what are you validating in terms of the Vulcan side? You don't. We know that Amanda could also see logically. We know that. The question is, can Sarek feel? Can Spock feel? And it's making that transition from being an alien to being human, and not the other way around. So you have to have Amanda. Amanda bridges it back to us. And when you lose Amanda, it forces him to retrospect in that. And then we get the revelation that we as Star Trek fans have always known, that Vulcans do feel emotion. They do experience emotion. They just suppress it. They don't express it. But he acknowledges it for the first time, which we know more from TNG as well, that he loved her and that he feels deeply, and that if he can do it, so can Spock. And that encourages Spock to go back to the bridge and say, as is pointed out, Vulcan is gone. Earth is the only home I have left. This is his family.
I can see both arguments. I can see.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, at the end of the day, the main point about Star Trek is an interrogation of ethics. And Sarek, in that moment, fails miserably.
So I think I agree with you, Dohmen, and I agree with you, Ingle. It could go either way.
Yeah.
But I
And-
do
and-
agree with
and-
you
and-
about the speed. The speed is this is an
Yeah.
action film.
Yeah.
It does go fast. There
Yeah.
are a couple
mean-
quiet moments that are really good. Him and Uhura in the turbo lift actually is really good. It's
That's a
very cool-
great
scene.
scene.
Great
Yeah.
scene. Yeah, no,
Um,
I agree. The last time I watched it a couple days ago, and I love this movie. I did notice the speed. The pace was a little breakneck.
Mhm.
Anyhow,
Yeah.
And again, just to sort of wrap up the point, like there's nothing wrong with a fast-paced movie, but then that does mean that you have to have a story and characters that are simple enough to support that. Because if you start complicating things, but you still are expecting us, the audience, to engage fully with a fast pace, it's not gonna work.
Yeah, we're not going to be invested
I
in
mean,
those
it's a good
characters.
comparison because Star Wars often keeps it simple.
Well-
Exactly.
Therefore, going fast is okay.
Well, it was funny because JJ screwed that up too, but that's for a conversation for another
Well,
time.
I don't have anything to say on that.
Well, all right. So let's talk about the climax of this film. The Enterprise goes back and realizes they're at Earth. They managed to sneak up on the Narada at Earth. Earth is attacking San Francisco. Poor San Francisco.
Of course.
Why?
Well, it's Star
always?
Trek. Where else are they gonna go?
Florida.
They have to
Florida.
attack Starfleet
Florida.
headquarters.
Destroy
Always.
Florida. Thank you, Enterprise. Florida.
Yes. Yes.
Oh
let's
yeah,
let's do that.
Enterprise.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, they attacked Florida. I was like, all right. And let me tell you, I don't get political, but
It
Florida.
deserves it.
Yeah,
It deserves it.
but tell Alden Diaz to evacuate because he lives there.
And maybe half of the Disney World staff.
Yeah, come back over here.
Come to Disneyland. Anyway,
Yeah.
Anyhow,
we have turkey legs. Anyway, I almost bought a turkey leg the other night. It was $13 at the store, but I was so tempted. I was like, I want a turkey leg. Thank you, Disneyland. Disneyland has got that stuck in me forever. Anyway, climax. So they go back, and this time they're going to board the Narada directly, but they've got to get aboard before the drill is dropped. So they're beamed aboard, and they think they're gonna be in an inconspicuous place. Nope, they're beamed right on the bridge. It looks like. So yeah, they got to fight their way to go get Pike, and to find the jellyfish. Meanwhile, they've got to figure out a way to stop the drill and to stop everything. But they unfortunately, in this process, right after they beam over, the drill drops, and now they can't transport. Now they can't communicate. So it's up to Spock and Kirk to fight their way through. And we get a voiceover appearance from Will Wheaton.
that's right.
Will Wheaton is one of the Romulans.
Oh.
He is one of the Romulans. I don't know if he actually plays him, but I know he voices one of them. So I don't know if he came in later or if he was on set. I don't know that much, but I do know it's him.
Okay.
It's one line, but I know that voice. Wesley the Traveler's hiding as a Romulan. He learned from Deanna Troi.
Makes sense.
Anyway, so wouldn't that be interesting if he was the Wesley from the other timeline?
Oof.
Oh, I'm confusing things again, aren't I?
Oh, that'd be so bad.
Anyway, but they work through to save him. Spock goes to board the jellyfish, where Spock discovers that, oh, this is from the future. That it's my future. And he learns, a little bit more thanks to the computer.
This ship recognizes my voice.
Yes, he figures it out pretty quick. And Kirk's like, really? I didn't notice. And then there's the slow turn. There's the slow turn, which reminds me of Dr. Evil in his chair. And
$1 billion.
It's the worst chair of all. Why? This is literally from 2401. Why can't we have faster seats?
Although I do love, if you guys ever want a good laugh, go watch the bloopers
Yes,
from
yes.
That part is perfect.
They recreate this entire
I
scene.
knew you'd been hiding things from me.
Something
It
tells me
works,
I've been
though.
here before.
It's a work stock.
If I don't make it back, please tell Lieutenant Uhura that I love her.
It'll work. It'll work.
anyway, so he manages to escape and disables and destroys the drill, but the damage has been done. They manage to get Pike and beam off, But this frustrates Nero. And instead of Nero going after Earth, he now debates it. Enterprise is like, come get me. And so he
does a lot of Eric Bana yelling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pulls him
And jumping across. This is the one thing I don't get about the Narada. It's such a big ship. Why do we have these big, giant, gaping, open chasms in this ship?
Can I talk about this ship really quick?
I never understood that.
We designed by the Galactic Empire, apparently.
We talked about the Enterprise and the jellyfish. By the way, I like the jellyfish design. It's different.
Yeah,
I like
cute.
It's shout out to Geordie LaForge. Geordie LaForge helped build this thing. Thank you, Star Trek Online. But I want to talk about the Narada. Now, you brought it up before, Aaron, so I'm going to ask you. You made a comment to me before off air and on our first recording. What does this ship look like to you?
Honestly, it looks like if we want to get like what it looks like a giant porcupine.
True. But you made mention to a specific species. That,
it's green and black and glows.
Yes. Aaron believes that it's a Borg. It has Borg, at least Borg modifications.
Not believe. This is canon.
You know what? Here's my okay. This is my problem with this idea of canon that we're getting with this. Okay. No, when 09 came out, online was already well on its way. And the comic book that was with this was also supposed to be considered canon. In that comic book, Data came back from B4 and was commanding the Enterprise E. This is before Spock goes into the board, into everything. But Data's in command of the Enterprise E. All of that was considered canon. And the idea for Star Trek Online carried over once that Kelvin universe stuff happened. We see the destruction of Romulus after. We see all of that. My problem is that since we now have Discovery and Strange New Worlds and Picard and all of this, that all means nothing anymore. So while I love the idea of in canon, he is speaking about a connection between the Romulans and the Borg, which there is some of that in Picard. There's a little bit of that in Picard.
It lines up in the timeline.
It's so weird to me.
It lines up though.
Continuity aside, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Canon is different than continuity.
Well, I'll fire a cannon at your continuity. Anyway, I just didn't buy it. I see it, I understand it, and we've seen some funky Borg ships. We've got Picard had the Borg Gina, which I still don't understand that thing. Makes no sense. Why does it have that shape? Why? Make no sense. Let's stick with cubes and diamonds and spheres and cylinders.
And whatever that long oblong dodecahedron thing was in Voyager.
Yeah. Diamond
The Unimatrix, whatever it was.
That
was weird. That whatever.
I think they just put whatever they wanted wherever they wanted. Anyway, my point is there is belief that there might be some Borg infusion into the technology. I love the design of the Narada. It's menacing. It really reminds me. What I feel like here is you say that, I see your Borg and I raise you the scimitar. I think it's more likely that whoever built the scimitar, or at least that technology that was involved in that, because I'll guarantee you there was probably some Riemann Tal Shiar mixing going on here. Because they had to have kept it secret. They did keep it secret. How else do you do that? You got to have the Tal Shiar. So I'm thinking they probably took that technology and used more of that. And you see some of those sharper edges in a lot of those sharper edges in the Narada. So I think that fits in there.
That's true.
Yeah, I enjoy it though. It's menacing. No matter what way you look at it, that is a mean looking ship. You would not want to go out. But
I'm more scared of the ship than I am of Nero.
Yeah,
Spock does a genius thing, and he rams the jellyfish in and beams out at the last second, thus igniting the red matter, creating a singularity right at the heart of the Narada, and it's pulling the Narada in. Kirk says, "Hey, Nero, we have time. We can get your crew out of here." And he's like, "Well, I'd rather die." Fine, and Kirk and Spock are having a conversation on the bridge.
We'd rather you die too, Nero.
Spock's like, "What are you doing, Captain? It's diplomacy, Spock. I thought you'd appreciate." No,
Not this time.
not this time. Fire everything we've got at him. Okay, and it gets sucked in. But they've got to make one last major escape, and they're going at full warp, but the power of the singularity is pulling them in. So they blow the warp core.
Done many times in Star Trek.
Blow the warp core. You know what? They actually, okay, this is a funny thing. The warp core blowing is not near as common as you would think it is.
It's always potential.
Yeah, it's
a potential warp core breach. We may need to eject the warp core, but they've only actually done it a handful of
That's true.
times.
In Voyager, they did it.
Voyager,
Insurrection.
Insurrection. Yep. It's the only time they ever blew the warp
Voyager
core.
ejected the warp core, but then they retrieved it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. But it's never, never blown up. We've never blown up a warp core besides that one moment in Enterprise.
That's true.
So, but again, it's another trope. Which, by the way, if you're a fan of Lower Decks, they carry on this trope, and I do love it so much. Yeah. Shax, let's blow up the warp core. Always want to blow up the warp core. Till the one time they blow up the warp core. Anyway, so no, they blow up the warp core. They use the shockwave to jettison away, and they make it back to Earth, where Kirk is commendated and made captain. He is graduated at that point from Starfleet Academy and named as the relief, the youngest captain in Starfleet history, which is in line with the original series. He was the youngest captain.
Oh, that's true.
And he relieves as essentially an ensign, by the way.
That's true.
Kirk, he does.
That's true.
He relieves him and is captain of the USS Enterprise. And we get a callback to Pike in the wheelchair. Pike's in the wheelchair. We get more of that, which is kind of cool.
Cosplay is the original wheelchair.
And then,
I'm thinking one of these days I might cosplay as the original Pike wheelchair.
I would help you do that, man. I think that would be great. We'll get a light that you could just trigger with your button. I like that.
Except I like to talk, so it might be kind of weird. Anyhow.
Anyway, and so we get then they congratulate him. Everything's great, and we see Spock Prime. We have one more conversation. Spock Prime and Spock conversate with each other. Spock wants to leave Starfleet. Spock Prime says, "I encourage you, stay in Starfleet because we have the unique ability of being two places at once." So he's like, and I love this line.
Great scene. It is a great scene.
It is a great scene, and it's probably my favorite line in the entire film. Since my customary
greeting would be rather self-serving.
Let me just say goodbye and good luck. I love that. Like it's cool. And the thing is that even though we get him in another movie, we're near that end for Leonard Nimoy, and it's it's kind of sad. But yeah, and so
between the two of them.
It is. So we see Leonard Nimoy watching the ceremony above. As he starts going thrusters on full, he starts narrating, and then we flash back to the crew doing the same thing as they're coming in, and he kind of narrates the whole thing, and then finally it ends with Leonard Nimoy doing. It is Nimoy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Nimoy.
It's Nimoy.
Yeah.
Space, the final frontier. We all know it. It's always gives me chills.
And then the movie ends with a awesome version.
Giacchino's rendition of
the original series theme.
Yep.
Yes. All right.
Now so it's a miracle that the whole universe survived all that red matter exploding. Because I brought this up in the original recording, and I'm going to bring it up here again because I'm sorry, when you have something like with the destructive power from one drop of that red matter, no, the whole entire quadrant should have been sucked into that black hole.
I'll agree with that.
I don't know.
Someone call Gojira because that is the heaviest matter in the universe.
So okay, short story. I've asked about this. I've had years to think about this because I too thought the same thing. Temporal mechanics is a thing. And I've talked to lots of mathematicians and engineers on this idea of temporal mechanics. Why I talked to an engineer, I have no idea, but I did. The idea, their theory behind the red matter, again, it's very MacGuffin-y, they admit that. But the idea being that there are things in this universe that we think about quantity equals larger scale. And the reality is that quantity doesn't always equal a larger scale when you're dealing with gravimetric fluctuations. It's not always equivalent that way. So maybe the idea of having the red matter is you only needed to use a little bit because it was going to be the same result no matter what way you sliced it. Again, this is all theory. And I am not a scientist in any means, nor am I a mathematician or a physicist.
For other uses.
Yeah, I think more the idea that I want to believe that that's it, but it could just be me kind of in my head cannoning it a little bit. But I like the idea that there are certain things when you're dealing with gravity where size doesn't matter. Amount doesn't matter. There's a point where it changes that. Now, whatever red matter is, I have no idea. What is red matter?
It's a
no clue. It was invented by John Q. MacGuffin.
Yes.
Yes. I'd like an egg MacGuffin, please.
Yes.
You know what? Brennan, that's what we're going to call it from now on with every episode. We'd like to order an egg MacGuffin.
Egg MacGuffin, yes.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Get the replicators going. Replicator, I'd like an egg MacGuffin, please.
Oh, yes.
The mask. The mask from masks in TNG. Just thinking of it in my head. I love this. Anyway.
Yeah, it happens a lot in Star Trek.
It does. But other than that, I both love and don't like the fast pace. Dohmen is right. It needs to slow down in places, but it's already long as it is. You know, you're going to have to cut some things, which
cut most of the intro.
Before we go into this, I have to add my favorite section of all time. And it's a section I call, why did they take that out? We take a look at the deleted scenes. Should it have been left in? Or should it have been taken out? And there are quite a few in this movie where you're going, what the heck is going on? So the first thing I want to talk about is we actually, in a deleted scene, witness the birth of Spock. Keep it or toss it?
They should have kept it.
Probably should have
It
kept
gives a moment between Sarek and Amanda.
Mm-hmm.
That might have been nice to have.
And I think that back and forth, too, would have been tighter with that scene in it. Because the whole purpose of that intro, minus what happened on the Kelvin, and I know why it's there, but the whole point is that we're bouncing back and forth between Spock and Kirk, because that is the focus of our relation. That is the focus. It's Kirk and Spock. So I get it. I think you needed that.
Okay.
That little piece right there. Right after all the ships from the Kelvin leave, the Narada is actually disabled. Klingon warbirds appear and surround Nero's ship. Keep it or toss it?
Yeah, I think
keep it.
This was this and what comes after were the biggest wasted opportunity of this movie.
I'm gonna get to that. That's two ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
It,
Aaron referenced this earlier. The opening to the joyride sequence with Kirk, where we discover that Kirk is living with his older brother George and their uncle Frank while his mother is away.
Frank played by Greg Redberg, I believe.
Kirk is forced to wash the Corvette, which did belong to his late father. When he's cleaning it out, he opens the visor and the keys fall. And there was actually an argument there too between George and Jim, and George goes walking. I don't know why. You guys called me out on this the first time, and I gotta say, I don't get it. What did he call him as he passed by?
Johnny.
Makes no sense to me. How do we get George to Johnny? I don't know. But he is marked as George Kirk, who we've seen in other including the death of George Kirk in TOS. Played by William Shatner.
With a bad mustache.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. And now I don't know the guy who plays him, but he's got a bad mustache too. Anyway, all right. This is Dohmen's scene. we witness the Narada and their crew being taken and tortured on Rurapente,
And made to work.
and they are made to work. And Dohmen, who plays our lead Klingon?
Victor freaking Garber, baby. Let's go.
Last recording who said they dare have the audacity to take Victor Garber out of the movie.
They
I think-
dared.
I
They
think-
have the audacity.
I think this was a favor by JJ to Victor Garber. Victor Garber starred with Jennifer Garner in Alias.
That's right.
Mhm.
So I think this was a favor to Garber, or Garber to JJ, one of the two.
And he built the
Hey, why the
Titanic.
hell is it not in this movie?
I don't know. It's already a long film. I don't know.
I don't care.
Yeah,
And he
missed
built the
opportunity.
Clearly, yes,
Time.
yes,
And he built
absolutely.
the Titanic, so.
But after years, they spend years on Rurapente. We see them working. We get to see them escape, get aboard the Narada. By the way, why the Klingons after 25 years weren't like taking the Narada apart piece by piece? Because it's Romulan people. Sorry, maybe taking that scene out kind of actually fixes some things here and gives us questions we don't have to answer.
Yeah.
Computer, let me have an egg MacGuffin.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. We get a little expanded scene between Galia, Gaila, who is the she is the Orion, his little love toy.
Ooh.
Where we found out how Kirk managed to beat the Kobayashi Maru, and he secretly used her, and she didn't know it. Keep it?
Nah,
Yeah. You like the mystery of how he did it? Just
Yes.
a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. Absolutely.
And that also kind of makes it seem like Kirk is worse than he actually is.
Yeah.
But he
Yeah.
is, you know what? Here's the thing. He's definitely not the Kirk yet that we need him to be. And so I like the idea of him being mischievous and kind of,
Well,
And I
okay,
get it.
Mischievous is one thing. Being an outright jackass and a manipulator, that's a different thing.
now
And,
here's
you
the thing.
know,
Was he just using her, or was he having a good time and thought, hey, then used her?
That's still the same thing.
Either way, no, I don't want that.
It's still the same thing.
I don't mind if she's on screen more though.
I would too, but this is four guys talking about a girl who
Oh,
we only
sorry,
saw in her
yeah.
underwear. So
Yeah,
not true.
okay.
But that's not true. That's not
yeah.
true. We saw her in other
She's in her
moments,
uniform.
but
Later.
no, like yes, I would have loved more of her character. Period. But just get rid of that scene.
Okay, let's see
So,
here.
Kendi will always be my romantic crush.
Another scene that probably for the best was removed. Ayel, who is the first officer of the Narada, disagrees with Nero and says, "Hey, we should go home. We have Romulus. Let's go." He kills him, which I will say probably is a good thing they removed him, because in later scenes he's seen fighting Spock
With Kirk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see like it can go both ways.
Yeah,
Like
Clifton
maybe
Collins Jr.
they
is
should have kept that, because that would have given a little more emotion to the crew. But in the same point, he's the first officer essentially. He gets killed later on. You kind of got to have him around.
The
Yeah.
final scene is a longer moment of the Spock Prime Spock in take, where they go through that, but as Spock Prime passes Sarek does a double take.
Hmm.
They should have kept that. That would have been nice.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
just a little piece,
And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, Nero really quick.
Hmm.
Is Nero not just a poor man's Khan?
Half the franchise's film villains are poor man's cons. Like,
Not wrong.
Okay. Ingle, you and I both agree that Chang is one of the best characters in the entire series. But is he not Khan 2.0?
True.
He's Khan
Yeah.
2.0. Look at the Borg Queen. She's Khan 3.0. Nero is Khan 5.0. Like, the movies just love going back to the well of Khan,
Sometimes it
because
works.
Khan was so perfect They don't want to bother trying it anymore. Like, hell, okay, Gul Dukat, I would argue, is just another Khan ripoff. Again, done arguably better because there's depth to him, there's character to him, but a lot of his a lot of his character still roots back to Khan.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
True.
Well, to tie this up, I just wanted to ask that because I was thinking about it. He's all revenge and I'm gonna get you, very Khan-like to me.
He's
Very
very
Hab.
But don't worry,
Arizona.
they will never ever do anything with Khan ever again.
No, we promise.
Promise.
Yeah, we're just doing Gary Mitchell.
Gary
Yeah.
Mitchell, we promise.
Yeah.
Actually, I'd like some Gary Mitchell, please. That would be interesting.
Like I
Anyway,
said, J.J. Abrams is not good at keeping secrets.
so I'm gonna go around the room here. We're gonna tie it up here. How Star Trek is this movie? Again, it's a reboot, yet it's a sequel. It toes the line, and I think we've all agreed. It toes the line very well and makes this accessible. This is an accessible Star Trek film. If I had to show anybody a Star Trek film for the very first time, yes, I want to show 2, 6, 4, First Contact. Yes, I want to show those. But if I'm just introducing for the first time, this is the one you do it with. I think by that definition, for me, that means it's Star Trek. If I can help define the basics of Star Trek with this movie, then yeah, it is Star Trek. Aaron, what about you? Is this Star Trek?
Yes, I would say so. Scale of 1 to 10. Probably a 7.5. While I do have some issues with it, it is exactly like you said, is an extremely accessible Star Trek, very good springboard for somebody just getting into the franchise.
Dohmen.
So, okay, sometimes I don't like to repeat myself on points, but I'm going to repeat myself from the point that I made last time from the last recording, where I compared this entry to another divisive entry in another beloved franchise, The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, which by itself is, I would argue, is a great video game with a pretty noticeable flaw in pretty bad controls, but great story, great characters, great artwork. Oh my God, I love it. But is it a great Zelda game? That's up for debate because holy crap, does it get some things wrong in regards to the Zelda lore? Just like how I feel about Star Trek 09. Is it a really good film? Absolutely. But Ingle, this is where I will agree with you. I think this actually is a good starting point for Star Trek. This is probably the most accessible you can get. And I like it for that. Because it does display some of the tropes that you're going to see about the franchise: time travel, epic rivalries, the heart of the characters, which is something that we all love Star Trek for. It's not just the sci-fi concepts, but because of the heart these characters represent. And yeah, so again, while I would say this is still not a good Star Trek film, it's a good one to start with, because from here, it's going to get a lot better pretty quick.
Brennan.
I agree with what's been said. This is the most accessible. I think that from a character standpoint, they knocked this movie out of the park.
Yes.
This is Star Trek when it comes to the characters. The ideas of time travel and alternate universes, very Star Trek.
So Star Trek.
Now, most Star Trek movies are a little bit slower and more methodical. This movie moves pretty quick, so I'd argue that in terms of its pacing, it's not much like Star Trek, but in terms of its ideas and the characters, this is Star Trek.
Yeah. I think where
I would introduce people to Star Trek with this.
I think where this really hits, and we didn't talk, but I want to hit this just briefly, is the fact that the accessibility means that both new and old can like this. And the actors do such a good job of making great choices. And I'm going to blame the actors here, not the directors. I will. They make choices here that both show us all the things we love about the old characters and yet give us something new. Look at Kirk, okay? No one would confuse Chris Pine with William Shatner. Nobody. And yet everything he does is Kirk to a T. Yet Carl Urban, spot on, is Bones. 100%. He's got the cadence, the sarcasm, the depth of his character is there. That relationship is great. And then I said Scotty. Scotty to me is the most spot on, dead on recreation. And I love it. Adore it. And you actually did something that I complain about on this show all the time. You gave Uhura character and something to do. My God, JJ, I owe you everything. I complain all the time on this show that Uhura gets the shaft. Uhura gets the shaft. Uhura doesn't get the shaft in this. In fact, in the next film we're going to talk about in a month, again, I really feel she gets more to do. She gets more responsibility. She's not just a damsel in distress.
That's true.
I really appreciate Zoe Saldana being given the ability to be strong, to show that Uhura is a strong character. I love you, Nichelle. You did a lot for us, but they didn't give you enough to work with. And it's a shame. But I believe, if I remember correctly, that she was very proud of Zoe Saldana and her performance.
Yes, she was.
She was.
Yeah. So, yeah, the character choices in here are just fabulous in their abilities to switch back and forth between the familiar. And I think that's what makes this so good. Yes, the story is great, but as you said, Dohmen, it moves too fast. It absolutely does. Does it have plot holes? Yes, it does. Does it leave us with a lot of questions as Trek fans? Absolutely. But what is the most important thing about Trek at all, and any story, is that you can relate and connect with your characters. And we can do that here as fans and new fans all alike.
Yeah, absolutely.
You were going to say something, Brennan?
Nope.
All right. I think this is a recommendation for all of us, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
Awesome.
With an asterisk, but yes.
No asterisk. This isn't Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame. What are you talking about?
Whoa there.
This isn't Kevin Spacey's Oscars. Oh, sorry.
Oh.
Bro.
That was good.
Yeah.
God. You know what? I'm so sad that he went the path it is, because I think he could have been great in Star Trek, by the way. Spacey? Spacey would have been amazing in Star Trek.
Anagus.
No.
I think he would have been good as
Hold
Anagus.
on. You ready for this? This is my take, my quick hot take.
All right.
I love who they got, but I actually think he could have done it better. Admiral Marcus. I'm just seeing it in my head.
Well, we'll have to talk about this next month.
We will talk about this next month.
Mm.
Well, but that is, I will say that is our next month's movie. We will talk about Star Trek Into Darkness. But next week, Brennan and I are going to do something we've been wanting to do, and we are going to push this forward and make it happen. Brendan and I are going to actually leave our normal format, and we are going to take a look at The Next Generation and Picard as a whole. And we're just kind of going to retrospect with each other as fans what we've loved about this franchise. Oh, yes. Yes. I told you before, that's great. I like it when it's Borgified.
I like both.
I don't know.
I was listening. Aaron's got the what's it called?
He's got the La Serena's bridge.
Serena
I don't know what to call that. It's engineering room at the same time.
The back.
It's the back of the La Serena.
Yeah.
One giant holodeck. I love it. Anyway, but yes, Brennan and I are going to talk about the legacy of The Next Generation. And being that Brennan and I, as Dohmen and Aaron as well, we grew up first with Next Generation. Seeing Picard end, I want us to talk about that and what that means to us and what The Next Generation has brought to us. And I think where the heart of our love of Star Trek truly began.
And shed a tear or two.
We probably will. No joke. But that's next week. Aaron, where can the people find you?
Oh, you can find me on all the socials at Festering Ruin, Festy Rides Again. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm on all that stuff.
I know you do a lot of political stuff. Think you could sneak in a Star Trek one in there somewhere?
Probably.
Maybe
Of course I could.
maybe a Shaw, maybe a no in there somewhere.
You know what? Actually, I wanted to link this back. Actually, now that we're talking about this, Captain Rabaul was on 12 Monkeys. So was Todd Stashwick, and so was Terry Matalas. He was the creator of 12 Monkeys. So that
Bringing it
we
back
just
around.
Tarantino the whole
It's
thing.
all connected.
Awesome. I'm serious, man. His TikToks are very thought provoking. I just want one Star Trek TikTok from you, man.
I got you.
You got you. All right, Dohmen. I
guys
hear you play music.
I do, and well, what's going on here?
Oh,
Sorry.
the band quit.
Oh, yeah, no. So I was getting some weird thing coming in on my end. But yeah, no. So you guys can find me across all the socials at Skywalker Dohmen. You guys can follow my band, Last Shot Redemption, at Last Shot MN. And then again, all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, where we're starting to try to do more stuff. And our drummer is stealing the show because our drummer is freaking fantastic. We just actually played a show over the weekend, and my voice is still kind of shot. So thank you for understanding.
We were going to record this earlier, but Dohmen had a show, so we wanted to give him his voice back.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Brennan, where can the people find you?
Find me on Twitter at Brennan Mystical. Follow the podcast under the umbrella of Page Turners They Were Not, which is my Star Wars podcast, and of course Random Trek.
Absolutely. Yes. And you can find me on Twitch, on Twitter at Ingle1984, where this summer I will be taking on actually Star Trek games that I will be putting here. Maybe a little Starfleet Academy, a little Starfleet Bridge Crew, and somebody has recommended this, and I'm gonna find a copy of it. We've got to play the Star Trek Voyager game, Elite Force, and possibly Elite Force 2 if I can find it.
Yes.
It is not on Steam, so I got to look elsewhere to find it. But
GOG.
Is it GOG? Okay.
Yeah, I think they have it.
Yeah. So hopefully we will be playing those games coming in, and we'll stream some of that Q1Q action.
Okay.
But as always, we end every episode and live long and prosper.
Peace and long life.